Well, welcome everybody to our Realbird hands-on workshop. We're glad to have you here this fine Friday morning. We get together a couple times a month to bring you the best and the brightest of how to be more productive in real estate, generating leads for buyers and sellers. And once in a while, we have an opportunity to bring in real live agents that are churning and burning and making success happen in real estate and sharing their expertise. And today is one of those days. Today we have a guest trainer today, and her name is Shelly Northern. She is she's from Miami, actually originally from England, but made Miami her home most of the last 20 years. She's been very successful. Before she worked with her current brokerage, Compass, she was a broker owner of her own brokerage firm in Coral Gables, and it's been very, very successful. And she was also the co-presenter and featured agent on Sky TV's $1 Million Dream Homes, where she showcased Miami's finest luxury properties across Europe. She's been featured on the cover of Brickell magazine. She's been a real estate broker for almost a decade. She's handled many different kinds of residential, commercial real estate, including over 200-acre equestrian communities to international investors. And through that experience, she's had quite a diverse clientele database, and she's been trusted by clients and colleagues alike. And many realtors have even listed their own home with her, which that kicks it up a notch, and it shows her that she has what she needs to attract people that want to get business done. She's passionate about what she does. She actually spends a lot of time in Miami's animal shelters finding homes for high-risk dogs, moving them out of state to safety. She's been a lifelong student. She learns all the time, which I think, gosh, that's a so important, great trait to have. She actually studies Mandarin for 3 years. Also enjoys painting, drawing, and working out. She's a well-rounded individual. By the way, good morning, Shelly. Ni hao ma.
Wow, I'm impressed.
好不好？
我很好，人气我很高兴。
So she's going to share some awesome stuff with her. So I know every time we have an agent on here as a trainer and showing what's really working for them, my ears perk up, because me as a real estate coach, I normally do these trainings. I love hearing what's working and what's not, and she's willing to impose some of her experience with you today. And it's kind of a topic that I think a lot of agents are hesitant to touch, and that is cold calling. It's like, oh, you say cold calling and people go cold and their spine starts to freeze up, and what do I do? Well, she has some interesting insights to share and some great success stories. So without further ado, Shelly, I'm going to turn over this presentation to you, and thank you very much for coming over today. It is recorded. Please share your comments or ask questions in the chat on the side. We're going to try to answer those as they come in. If we get a little behind and we haven't responded, we apologize. We'll get to you. But this training session is being recorded, and everybody will get a copy. So you can take copious notes, which is always great, but you will get a copy also. And thank you, Shelly, for sharing taking the time to share your expertise, what's working, what's not working. Take it away, Shelly. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. So I really appreciate the introduction. The working out, wow, that's kind of been slacking lately. So the reason that I wanted to do this for you guys is not so much that I don't really class myself as a trainer on purpose, but I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, and most of them are actually related to marketing. Because, it took me a long time to admit this. I truly do not like marketing. I like negotiating. I like meeting people. I love seeing the houses. I love pretty much every aspect of the whole transaction aside from actually getting the business. So Janie, actually, who will be helping me, because I won't see your questions, I won't see anything that you're writing, but Janie will be helping me moderate this. She was my business partner for many years, and I was kind of spoiled because that was her strong point, and my strong point was getting the deals to closing. So she will be there to help, and bring those questions in. She knows a little bit about what I do as well. So that was why I started deciding to do this, because when when I actually committed to marketing for myself, because when you're very passive about getting business, I'm lucky that I get a lot of referrals. When you get referrals, though, you're not choosing the price point, you're rarely choosing the location, and you're kind of taking what you're given. And I've been doing this for 13 years, and I needed to just focus on the things that I wanted to focus on, the areas and the price points. And the only way to do that really is for me to kind of get my butt in gear and start marketing. So I started a few different things, just to give you a little background. I started doing door knocking, but I'm a little out of the box with this kind of thing. So with another colleague, we went, for example, door to door with balloons, with pumpkins at Halloween. And while I found that fantastic and enjoyable, it's really time consuming. It really takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. And it wasn't working for me to just get out there and do that. There's only so many doors that you can knock on each day. So that kind of led me into, what else can I do? Mailings for me didn't work either. I'm not that organized, you guys. My desk is constantly like a bomb's gone off on it. So being organized to do mailings and postcards, because that's something that I've learned you have to do so consistently for multiple months, or you're basically throwing money away. If you do like a 1 or 2 time mailer, it's not going to be anywhere near as effective as being very consistent for months on end. And that's just not me. I had to kind of know my limitations as a person. So that led me to cold calling. So when I started with cold calling, I tried to avoid it for a long time. I'm the biggest procrastinator in the world. I will literally do anything before I do the thing that I'm supposed to do. So it took me such a long time to get started. And when I started Googling and trying to find people that were doing cold calling, I found it really intimidating, because they're rock stars and they're great and they're so motivated and they have their vision boards, and they wake up and they hit the ground running. And that is not me. I'm like crawling out of bed and I'm on my hands and knees to get to my coffee machine. There's no like namaste meditation with me. It's just not me. So I was starting to feel quite bad. Okay, I'm not making 500 calls a day. I was like, wow, this is not good. So that's part of the reason why I was doing this, to let you guys know I get it. I get all the reasons why you don't want to call. I get why you find it hard. I get when you're not motivated. And, I'm a real person doing this who finds it really hard to do this. So those were pretty much the reasons that I started to do this. It was kind of, just to let you guys know, it's not all, everybody is not motivated. It's not easy. It's not easy. So then basically I started to research, who do I call? I have a very big sphere of people. I have a lot of friends. I'm blessed that a lot of my friends have given me business. And my friends, obviously, they like me. Well, at least I hope they like me. But either that or they tolerate me, but we'll take either. So they give me business. And I'm thinking, okay, so that's great, but they all live all over. So of course I want to call them and keep them in the loop, but most of them already know I've been doing this a long time. If you haven't, then of course, you want to start calling them and just letting people know those are very simple phone calls. But other than that, you need to get your data. So you basically need to get data from different sources depending on who it is you want to call. The main kind of groups that people do call are the expireds, for sale by owner, the neighborhood, sometimes called circle, and my good friend and who works in my company, Jeff, will swear by LinkedIn as well. That's something that I can't really speak about because I'm terrible. I haven't even set up a LinkedIn profile. Don't judge me. But he swears by that as well. So those are some specific groups: expired, for sale by owners, neighborhood circle, and those were the main ones that I was looking into. And at this point, I had no clue which would be better for me. So I started researching all of them. And then the next thing was a dialer. So when you're making phone calls, and it's very recently for me to really know about that, I didn't know what a dialer was. So, usually you think you pick up the phone and you're making one call. But what I started to find was, oh my gosh, I have a low attention span. Like, we're talking like, oh, look, shiny new ball. Like, I can't sit on the phone, waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was finding it was taking all day. Sometimes you're calling 10 people before somebody picks up. Who has that kind of time? So then I started researching, and Janie was great. Janie knew a little bit about this too, and she was like, okay, look into dialers. So I started looking into, different dialers to kind of incorporate it into my business where they call multiple people at the same time. So that's what I started looking into those. So I was doing all of this research, and it kind of goes together, somewhat. So I started doing all of this research. So first I started looking into the data expired and for sale by owners, and I found multiple systems, and they were all varying in prices. So I kind of tested two. I tested Vulcan 7 and Redex at the same time. So I actually had a good friend, Kelly, and I gave her my login for Redex, and I did Vulcan 7, and we would call at about the same time every day for about the same duration, and we would check back and see, okay, how many accurate phone calls did we get? Like how many, when people answer, were we getting the correct numbers? What was our pickup rate? Because pickup rate when people answer their phone, is crucial when you're making phone calls, because who has that much time to waste on the phone? And I found Vulcan 7, even though it's quite a bit more expensive than Redex, was the one that was very accurate. I'll go into more detail with that later, but it's about $329 a month, and it sounds expensive, but your time is really, really expensive. Your time is way more expensive than $329 a month. Do not make the same mistake I made and start doing the slow kind of snail's pace, one at a time, unless you really have to. I don't want you guys to go into debt, but hey, those credit cards, just maybe use it for this. Don't buy the shoes, don't buy the bag, and don't go to dinner. Get Vulcan 7 for your expired and for sale by owner data, and then buy better shoes in about 2 months when you start seeing results. So that's what I started using. Now, Vulcan has a dialer, but it's a single line dialer. So the single line dialer is basically, you're not having to plug in the numbers. It's calling one, waiting until it either goes to voicemail, and then going to the next one. So it's just basically calling one person at a time. Still faster than you manually, plugging in those numbers, but still you're going to be waiting. You're going to have a lot of time that you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs, and that works for some people. I'll tell you why later on, but for me, I'm a bit of an oddball. It didn't really work for me. So neighborhood and circle calling. If you're one of those agents and you get, you have a lot of listings. I've always been a buyer's agent. So for me, this was a little bit of a weird one. But if you have a lot of listings or you specialize in a particular area, then I highly, highly recommend you getting Cole Realty. So it's COLE Realty, but I'll go into a little bit more about that at the end. You'll see. Don't worry about getting names of any of these systems. You'll see them at the end. But Cole is fantastic. It gives you cell phone numbers, landlines, and emails. So that's a really good one for you guys if you're a little bit nervous about calling, or you're farming a particular area. That will give you great data. Now, Cole doesn't come with a dialer at all. Redex, also the cheaper one, by all means give it a shot. It doesn't come with a dialer. So remember, you're going to have to manually dial from your phone or get another dialer. So what I actually did, I got Mojo. So Mojo is a system that it's the same kind of thing. It gives you data, but only landlines. So this is going to be confusing to you like it was to me, but just remember some of these things kind of cross over into the other. But for my dialer, I got Mojo. So it's called Mojo Cells. I don't get their data. It wasn't worth it. I need cell phones. So my Vulcan 7 data goes into my dialer. So when I make my calls, I'm wild. I'm dialing 3 people at the same time. I have no idea who's going to pick up until they pick up, which is kind of fun for me. But, maybe not so much fun for everybody else, but it's kind of fun for me. And then also when I was researching, everybody was wearing a headset. So I went out and I bought a headset. I was all excited. I wore it for 2 weeks and I just felt weird. Everybody wears them except me, I think. I just wear my Bluetooth. It's what I'm used to wearing. I'm on the phone all the time. So I don't wear my headset. I think if you're in an office and there's people around you, you'll benefit from the noise canceling with a headset. But honestly, for me, I found my Bluetooth way better. So I kind of skip that. You'll see the little Mojo icon there. That's Mojo. it also has the organization that I use. I am completely a mess when it comes to organization. So with this, I'll go into it in a little bit more detail, but when you make a phone call, you can track, you can make notes, you can schedule a follow-up phone call. I don't want to go into that too much and how it works because it will confuse you, and they do the tutorials to help you get through that. But without that system, I would be completely toast because I'm the queen of handwritten notes that, get lost everywhere and are completely useless to me. So that's my big thing that I would tell you is for organization, if you're making calls, do not try and do handwritten notes. You will lose them. And the follow-up is literally the most important aspect of your phone calls. Remember that. Without the follow-up, you won't get the business. Without the organization, you won't do the follow-up, and you will lose so much business. So definitely get an organizational system. Mojo is pretty cheap. It's about $150 a month. Let me know, Janie, if anybody has any questions. So scripts, I was nervous, you guys. I can talk the ear off anyone, but when it comes to something business related, I was pretty nervous. So I went and I got the Tom Ferry scripts. I became part of Fearless Agent, which they're fantastic and they're very motivational. And I got their scripts and I started studying them and going crazy and literally kind of trying to learn them off the top of my head and learning objection handling and everything that goes into the scripts. And it just wasn't working for me. I would be on the phone call trying to force a conversation flow. And it was just really, I found it so unnatural. I'm the kind of person that walks into City Furniture and I will literally be with the salesperson who doesn't approach me. I'm very non-salesy. I don't even like sending emails to my sphere. I don't like spamming people. So I found the scripts really, really hard. Like, I don't want to be picking up the phone and argue. I found them almost argumentative, and people have huge success with them. Don't get me wrong, they may fit you. They just did not work for me and my personality at all. So I started thinking, okay, what can I kind of incorporate into this? So I read Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, many years ago. And I made notes on that years ago. And I was like, oh, I was in my office with my, looking at my bookshelf. I saw that, I picked it up. I was like, this is great for my business. This is, kind of a softly people approach, because it is not about you. And I feel like when you're on the phone and when I watch people making calls, they're not listening. They have an ego, and their ego is involved in the call and it's taking over. And I feel like when you read Dale Carnegie, it's all about the other person. And this is what cold calling is. You have to get them to like you. I mean, there's no reason why they should talk to you. So my big advice is get the scripts, read the objection handlers. But if you're anything like me, do not stress about them. You're not a robot. A phone call is never ever going to go how you think it will go in your head. Never ever. And be open to that. It's cool. So what I started doing was calling my friends. So, I'm reading Dale, I'm reading the scripts, and I have a friend, Janie knows him, his name is Kelly, and he's ruthless, you guys. He's to date the worst person that I've ever called, and he's a homeowner. So I would start calling him and say, hey, imagine that I'm coming to try and get your business. How are you going to respond to me? Wow, did he prepare me? Because he's kind of mean. I think I got mad at him and hung up on him a few times, but he's been worse than anybody I've ever spoken to. Find a friend who, make sure they own property, because they will, they can think like a seller. It's going to be very easy for them. And have them take it seriously. It's fun, joke around a little, but have them take it seriously. And he told me when I started kind of reeling him in with the scripts, he was like, what are you doing? This isn't even you. He was like, if you were just yourself, I'd probably like you and then I'd want to talk to you. And that hit home with me. So don't stress about your scripts. Get on the phone to your friends and make them ask you the questions they would ask you, because you can call realtors, but sellers are usually not realtors. So all these realtors will be asking you questions and wanting to argue with you. And it's great somehow, it will prepare you. But most of the general public will not ask you the questions that the other realtors will. So pick up, start testing this out on friends and family and pick up the phone and call them, and it will prepare you a lot better in my experience than calling any agent did. Although, Ahmed, I love you. You were great to role play with if you're there. You were fantastic. So some agents are better than others for your personality style. Do not call agents who have a different style to you, because then you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel like you're doing things wrong. The main thing you have to remember is to stick to who you are. Do not become a robot. You know, do not try and bring everything back to something that feels unnatural to you, would be my big advice with the scripts. I hope you guys are still awake. It's so weird speaking to myself. Actually, probably not. I'm guessing most of my friends don't listen to me half the time anyway. Okay, so what do I have on my desk?
Shelly, you're doing great. You're sharing some awesome insight that
Thanks,
I hope
Eric.
everything's
So
paying great
weird.
attention to.
It's nice to have a voice there. Thank you. But okay, so what do I have on my desk when I'm calling? My desk, like I said, is usually pretty much like a bomb hitter, but there are some certain things that I found very useful. And this is not talking about my computer screen. That's, you know, a different thing. So I'll tell you what I have on there, of course, after. But the things that I keep close on my desk, I have some highlighted notes for common objections, which come in handy. I actually have less and less now, because the more you talk to people, it becomes so natural to you that you don't actually need to have them there. But in the beginning, I had basically, one on top of the other with little post-it notes to find them easily when I was on a call. I have Dale Carnegie notes and the book, because sometimes you got to remember to be human. So you have to basically, as much as I love people and I like making people laugh, there are certain things that I like to kind of remind myself of during the call. And sometimes when you're on a phone, you're not, your brain is like kind of divided. So it's just handy to have. Then I have a few company stats. I love Compass. Compass, best company in the world. But obviously for your individual stats are good. You can have your company stats, recent sales stats, depending on who you're calling. Notebook, to make notes, because as much as I make notes on the computer, sometimes I just scribble things down as well. So it's always handy to have a notebook, a pen, glass of water, because you're going to lose your voice, a gallon of coffee, always. I literally have a gallon of coffee a day, and a shot of tequila, because some people are really mean. I'm joking, but kind of not really. I did do calls on wine once. Yeah, let's not talk about that. But I was on the phone for about 45 minutes, and I'm actually supposed to call them back. So, hey, I guess it's not altogether too bad to be drinking while you're call. Sorry, guys, I'm not telling you to drink, but if you have a favorite, put it there. Okay, so let me see if let me just check. Okay, sorry, let me go back up. Okay, so on my computer screen, I have different things depending on who I'm calling. So if I'm calling expireds, and if any of you have more than one screen, I'm super, super jealous of you, because I have to flick back between screens like a maniac. So I call expireds for sell by owner, and I do circle calling a lot less, which is the neighborhood calling. But so, for example, when I'm calling an expired, I'll have my Mojo, which is my calling system, my basically, what I'm calling from. You're calling through your computer, the name pops up when they answer. And then I have the MLS. Those are the only two things I tend to have up when I'm calling expireds. For sell by owner is different for me. I'll actually have three things open. I'll have just like, Zillow or Realbird. Actually, I like to have both, because I use Realbird a lot with my for sell by owner people. So I'll have Realbird, Zillow, the MLS, and then also, the Mojo. So always a Mojo, because that's what I'm calling through. So for circle calling, similar kind of things. I'll have, just the MLS running, and then I'll be on the phone. So for example, with expireds, I'll tell you a little bit of how that works. So with expireds, I'm calling from my system. I use a triple dialer. That means 3 numbers are calling at once. Until they pick up the phone, I have no idea what their address is. I know nothing about, their property, nothing at all. So when they pick up the phone, then I can see everything. So I start talking to them and I'm quickly scanning the description to see what to say to them, but I'll talk more about that later. I hope I'm not boring you guys. Let's see. Okay, so now it's time for you guys to call. This is where you're gonna panic, procrastinate, go out, find a million and one things to do. Don't do it. Sit down, look over your scripts, call a friend, role play. You're gonna be nervous, it's normal, but if you're super nervous, start calling the sphere, start calling your friends. That's a little bit less scary. Then you can call Circle. I find there, because they're not getting bombarded with phone calls, they're a little more open to chatting to you. And then old expireds, they haven't been bombarded with calls. And then for sell by owner, they're getting bombarded, but they're usually a bit more open than new expireds because they want to sell. And a lot of them do welcome agents. And then new expireds are the ones that I don't call that many because I'm, like I said, a bit more passive. But they're the ones that tend to be, they're going to try and get you off the phone quickly. So if you're having a terrible, terrible day, don't stress it. Don't force yourself. But do kind of make sure you try and call at least one person from your sphere, even if you're not feeling it, because if you force yourself, you'll start feeling better about being on the phone and it will help you kind of start calling. Look at your vision board, remind yourself why you're doing this. If you have something on your desk, like the photo of your kids, sorry, I didn't mention that, but the thing that makes you smile and laugh, look at that. Just watch some callers, get on some of those fearless agent sites, watch Aaron Wittenstein, he's fantastic. Just watch them get beat up a little bit and just realize, it's not that bad. Visualize the worst call that can happen. Have a friend like my friend Kelly who will kill you and laugh about it because it's really not that bad. It's not going to ruin your life. So the first minute of conversation is pretty much the most crucial. You've got to smile while you talk. Literally smile while you talk. People always say, you have an English accent, it's so easy for you. Trust me, when they're in a bad mood and you catch them at dinner or they've had 200 agents call you, it doesn't help that I have an English accent. That comes up later on. Be cheery, smile when you're talking. People will know. You're going to fumble, you're going to freeze, you'll blurt out something that you completely didn't plan to. Own it, laugh, apologize, and just say, you know what, do you ever have one of those days where you're like, you just want to drink and it's 2 p.m.? And they'll probably say, gosh, yeah, I'm having that kind of day too. And then you can say, let's make a deal. Let's not drink till 6. And then, you've already softened them down a little bit because you've showed that you're vulnerable. So I have different openers for expires than I do for sale by owner and circle. I start for sale by owner, I'll kind of compliment them. Hey, congratulations. I found you. If I found you, buyers are going to find you. Give them a compliment quick. Whoever it is, give them a compliment quick. And it's sincere with me because I think they are doing a good job. I found them. I got their number. Sympathize with them. Hey, were you, was this stressful for you? Are you taking a break? If it's an expired, I get it. Don't feel bad. A lot of sellers took their houses off the market too. It's not easy to sell a house. When you compliment quick, when you tell them not to feel bad, it appeals to their ego because nobody wants their house not to sell. They feel bad. Like, why didn't my house sell? So make them feel okay, kind of appeal to their ego a little bit. If they tell you, hey, I've had 100 agents calling me already, and they're mad, just be like, well, do they all ask you the same thing? Like, hey, can you give me some advice? Because I want to be the one that actually gets these houses. What would you do if you were me? People, they like to be know-it-alls. They like to tell you this. When they're dismissive or mean, find a quick compliment and make it fast and ask them a question. Just kind of get them past that initial I hate you thing, which is the main thing you're doing, and listen to how they answer you. For God's sake, please listen to how they answer. Few people listen and they're already thinking what they're going to say next. And then for me, because I'm on the triple dialer, as soon as they answer, I'm scanning their description of their property and I'll look for a key feature. Like I'll see a fireplace, it's nice. I'll say, so I really liked your fireplace, by the way. Did you design that yourself? Or I'll see it's in one of my favorite buildings. Oh, I love your building. Didn't they just do an assessment? But pull out something unique about that property and do it quick. If you're on a single dialer, you have more time to plan before you make a call. So if you're nervous, maybe start with the single dialer where you can see who you're calling and you're going to be more prepared. Remember, the call's not about you. Stop selling yourself. Just quit it. Quit. They don't care. If they still hate you, like in the beginning, they don't care about what you do. I do business completely differently. Yes, so did the last 50 agents who call me. Don't make this call about you unless they ask about you. If they don't ask about you, then don't you dare offer it, like, until they've softened up. Don't be throwing out all your stats and bombarding them like a robot, like it's not about you. Let them talk, listen, sympathize, compliment, make them say your name so they remember you, say their name, find the hook that softens them up. If they suddenly mention their kid, say, oh my God, your kid goes to that school. Maybe you have a kid that went there. Find the hook that will soften them up. It's a thing that there will be one. They'll mention something that you can talk about. I had one guy, he said, I built this house myself and I used to be a designer. And I said, wow, where did you design? In Miami? And he said, no, in New York. And that was it. So that was the hook. There will be a hook, but you have to listen for the hook. And that is your key to keeping people engaged and getting them to like you. If they mention something, get them talking about that and make notes on your computer about the personal things related to this person. If they tell you, you know what, I wanted to sell, but I was, I've changed my mind because my husband lost his job, or make notes on your computer because you're not going to remember this. You won't remember any of you're speaking to so many people that you need to make notes that when you call them the next time, those notes pop up on your screen, which is what Mojo is great for. And just kind of, make it personal. You've got to get personal with those people. So another thing that I like to do is I like to make them laugh as much as I can. Like, I have no problem making fun of myself. Like, I don't do webinars, so you guys can message, oh my God, you're boring me, hurry up. But, so with them, I'll be like, yeah, gosh, I'm terrible. Like, I have a tennis player client, and when I first spoke to him, the first conversation, I was like, I'm really crap at tennis. I took like 4 lessons and the instructor told me not to come back, and he thought that was hilarious. He made fun of me until I sold like all of his properties. He never let that go. So find just something to make them laugh. Laugh at yourself, lose your ego, like say their name, make it about them, make them feel important, like give people credit for their ideas, especially for sell by owners, because they're the ones that have an ego. They're trying to do this by themselves. Do not argue with a for sale by owner. Do not ever argue with a for sale by owner. If they tell you they can do it, tell them, great, I'm sure you can. So let me give you some tips. Did you do an open house? Did you tie balloons to your open house sign? Did you ask people for an ID? And then throw in something that makes them want to hire you. I always say, did you ask people for an ID? Because for sale by owners can be targeted by criminals because they know that it's the owner letting them in. So just for your safety, did you ask for an ID? Like, you don't want to become a target of any kind of people scoping out your house. When it's a realtor, they know it's much harder to do that. It's stricter. Little ways for you to basically throw in why they should hire you, but it's part of the conversation because now you've softened them up. Like, and while you're talking to them, look at your screens for your sell by owner. Look at how they listed it on Zillow. So I'm talking to them, I'm listening, and I'm looking at my Zillow screen, and I'm looking at their photographs. And I'll tell them, you did a pretty good job of your photographs, but did you, how does it look in the evening? Oh, it looks great in the evening. We have a lot of lights in the garden. Oh, but you don't have that. You should have that. Did you, we hire, professional photographers who have been in the business for many years. So find a way to drop almost your scripts in and your salesy points, but in conversation. I'm going to be on this slide, by the way, for quite a while because this is like the meat of what I've learned while I've been doing this. So I kind of rushed a bit through the others. But this one is like, this one and number 10, I think, are the main ones. So you're just softening them up. You've got to have them to have a conversation with you because when you start, these scripts were instantly into real estate, I found. Like, hi stranger. Tell me all about your house and why it didn't sell. If that was me, I'd be like, take a hike. Like, I don't know you. Why should I tell you why my house didn't sell? It takes a very nice person to be that nice to tell you why their house didn't sell and they don't know you. So all you're doing in the beginning is basically getting a conversation and you're making notes on them. For example, I have a guy he's one of the first people I called, and he was tough. He was horrible. I called him for, a couple I've been doing this intermittently for a while, but now I'm focused on it. I called him for ages ago, and then I stopped doing this. I got, doing other stuff, and I was like, what am I doing? I need to go back to this. And anyway, so now he's one of my favorites. And I look back at the notes I have of him, and it was like, gosh, he's kind of mean. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. And I just made him laugh. I was like, it's me again. I call him like, it's me again, your favorite English realtor. Find a way to describe yourself that's memorable. I use the English, obviously, it's the easiest thing. Janie could probably be, hey, it's your favorite historic realtor, because Janie knows everything about history and historical properties. So don't be like, hey, it's your favorite realtor. Okay, well, they've had about 500 call them. You're not their favorite realtor. They don't know who you are. And talk about that while you're on the phone. You have to give them something to remember you by, or they will not remember you, especially expires and for sale by owners. They will not remember you. Make yourself stand out, have a conversation, make notes in the conversation. And when you call them back, hey, this is Shelly. I spoke to you. I remember your dog was sick. How's your dog? How's your dog doing? I was telling you about my vet and that I rescue dogs. Find something that you can bring up when you call them again, because the key is your follow-up. So you've gotta really focus on the follow-up. And you've got to be remembered. I'm just going to refer to a few notes I made because there's a lot. So I've told you, do not argue. Never argue. When you argue, you know more than they do. This is our business. You know more than they do. But the number of people I watched on the phone, and they're arguing with a for sale by owner. Well, why don't you want to hire a realtor? Well, we can sell it and net you more. We can do this. We. People have an ego, and their ego is very, very delicate. When you argue with somebody, great, you're going to win the argument, but you're going to lose because they won't like you. If they don't like you, they won't hire you. Nobody wants to lose. When you make somebody lose an argument, they will not hire you. Do not argue with them. Do not interrupt them, because let them talk. You're making notes. You're researching their property on your other screens while they're talking. Let them talk. Admire them. Compliment them. It's not easy for somebody to decide to sell their house on their own. It's not easy for somebody to decide to sell their house again after it failed as an expired. Compliment them on something. There's always something nice. Do they do great work? Make them feel good. Let them rant. I've had people tell me that they hate realtors. Like, they really hated realtors. And then I'm such a moron. They were one of my first calls, and I felt, oh, what can I do? So I actually mailed them a cake, like, hey. And they actually called me a month later and said, hey, we've chosen 3 people to interview, and you're one of them. And when I went to their house, they said, we really hated realtors, and then you sent us a cake. And we were like, wow. And I wrote something terrible on the card, like, I know you hate realtors, but everybody loves cake. Yeah, that didn't go down too well. I kind of failed. So, so definitely make them, mixing your experience, throw it in there. Just basically combine your scripts with your objection handling. Don't wait for them to bring up objections, bring them up in conversation and let it flow. Just, and if they're nice, tell them they're nice because you appreciate it. And people like being told they're nice. It's one of the biggest things you can do to compliment them. So steer the conversation. If it gets, when she's talking too much about her elderly mother, it's been 85 years, steer them. I'm not very good at that. I've had 45-minute phone calls, and I need to get better at that, but try and steer the conversation to a real estate place, but don't force it. Let it kind of get there naturally, but kind of just, tap it a little bit. So be open to a different outcome. This is huge for me. A lot of the clients I have right now are from for sale by owners who they either sold on their own. So a lot of the time you'll call and they've already sold. Ask them, oh, did you buy a new house? Be open to a different outcome. These people are now my buyers. So they sold their house on their own, or they actually, the old expires had already signed a listing agreement, but they like you so much that, they have an issue with paying. They don't want to pay commissions. When they're the buyers, it's different for them. So they will literally hire you as a buyer's agent if you're open to it. So look for the signs and don't be opposed to a different outcome than what you expect, because it's never usually what you expect. Humanize yourself is a good one. Make them say your name. Think serial killer. When they know your name and they know a bit about you, it's less likely they'll be mean to you. That's how I see it. Just humanize yourself. Be open to their advice. talk to them, listen to them, have fun with them, and just start talking to more people in general in your day-to-day. These calls will help you with all of your real estate business. When you go on a listing presentation, you will be faster at answering objections than you ever were, because on phone calls, you have 2 seconds. You don't have any time. And make your mistakes on your phone calls as opposed to your listing presentations. So these things are good for you, that when you get there to the meet, to the sign in on the line, you've made the mistakes during a phone call to somebody you wouldn't want to work with anyway, and then you're good for your listing presentation. So no matter what you do pick up the phone and call. It's always going to help your business, even if it's just calling your friends. Know when to say goodbye, then teach me, because I'm crap at this. I can talk to people forever once they're nice to me. I'm like, oh, you're so nice. Let me keep you on the phone because the next person might not be so nice. So I'm just going to stay with you. Know when to wrap it up. Wrap it up. If they said they were busy, they probably are. Make sure you have what you need before you wrap it up. If they told you they want to know what's going on in the neighborhood, make sure you have their email address so you can email it to them. If you don't, you can text them a link to upcoming sales or things like that. But make sure what you need, make sure you have a way that you can bring up yourself in the future conversation that they'll remember you by. And just give them, that's the most important thing, that they remember you by, because the follow-ups are much easier. The first calls you make will always be your hardest. I have 48 follow-up calls to do. I'm a little behind. And when I call these people, they all remember me, not at first, but when I tell them, hey, do you remember me? I'm the one that was telling you that I had to go to a listing presentation and my shoe got stuck in, yeah, that happened. My shoe got stuck in a driveway, and they remembered me. So always have that for your follow-up. So remember, they're getting called off the chain. It's super important that they remember you. And remember, it's a marathon, not a chase. I almost quit doing this because I was like, wow, these for sale by owners are taking forever. And they will. For sale by owners are going to take longer to convert than an expired, and you have an additional roadblock there that they're not willing to pay commission. I preferred speaking to them in the beginning because they're more open. They're more open to seeing you because most of them will pay a commission for somebody to bring a buyer. And I have answers to tons of objections that I can give you, but there's not that much time to do that. But they're open to meet you, but to get them to list is a lot harder. It really is. I met a few, and in the end, I was like, crikey, I don't know if I want to list this person's property. They're going to drive me to insanity. So, just remember, it's a marathon, not a chase. I call older expires. The idea of selling is not fresh in their mind anymore. So it takes a few. I listed one 2 weeks ago, and they called me and said, hey, we remembered you. We're ready to list. They didn't interview anyone else. We just listed. We're now under contract. They will remember you. If you're nice, just keep that follow-up. Keep the follow-up. You have to stick with the follow-up. If they tell you, if they pause when you ask them if they're planning to sell again, they are going to sell again. So keep that follow-up. Set the appointment. Even if they say, no, not really, call them back in a month. If they say, yeah, but not right now, call them back in a month. If they say maybe, but we're not sure, call them back in 2 weeks because they're already a maybe. Set these tasks. Text them sales. Don't bombard them. Don't spam them, but keep them on your follow-up. It's crucial. Crucial. And that's where I messed up so much in the beginning, is that I didn't follow up when I should, and I'd call them back, and I would say about 3 times, I was told, I remember you and I really liked you, but I couldn't find your information when I was ready to list. How much does that suck? Yep, bring on the tequila. That sucked. So don't make that mistake. Follow up. If you're being annoying, trust me, they will tell you. But stay in the picture, keep yourself relevant, basically. Let's see. So now you've done your calls. I'm proud of you guys. So after you do your calls, celebrate no matter what. It's an achievement. We're unemployed every day. We're looking for business. We're going on job interviews basically every day that we make a phone call. It's huge to do this. I am Queen Procrastinator. I'm telling you, I can't emphasize this enough. I'm not Miss Motivated. I'm not Miss Vision Board. You're not going to see me sitting on top of a mountain meditating, saying namaste. It's not me. So I celebrate when I make these calls. I'm like, I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I'll pick up the phone. I call my friend who just started a pastry business, and we celebrate each other's wins and celebrate the little thing. Because in the beginning, I was so intimidated on all of these sites, watching all people did in the Facebook narcissistic world was brag about the appointments they got. Oh, made 500 calls, set 10 appointments today. And I'm over here like, gosh, this is terrible. 500 calls and 10 appointments. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because these people will like you. You're going to call them back. They will give you appointments. I have business to prove this. Slowly but surely, my calls, business from it is overtaking my calls from my referrals. It does work. Do not compare yourself to other people. It is single-handedly the biggest mistake I ever did was comparing myself to other people. Celebrate that you had some good phone calls. Celebrate that you made people laugh because that's how you become friends with people. And what do friends do when they need to sell? They hire their friends. So do not compare people based on appointments. Do not compare based on the time you spent calling. Compare on the fact that you did it, you got off your butt, and it's not easy, you did it. That's why I say, even if you're not in the mood, call, you just listed a house, call the neighbors. Hey, I just listed a house, I'm giving you inside information. People love to know things that other people don't. Make one phone call. Jeff swears by LinkedIn. I think he's probably right about that because it's people that are in your sphere already, so it's a softer opening. Call somebody from your LinkedIn. Call somebody who is a past client, but call somebody, even if you don't want to. Call somebody. That alone is an achievement. Did you make a big mistake? Oh my God, I've made so many. My favorite was probably when I called somebody and said, the screens were switching, they answered the phone. I had no time to read anything. There was literally like no description. So I threw out the standard, hey, did you have a beautiful house for sale that it looks like it left the market about 2 months ago? And there was silence. And then I looked and said, vacant land. I was like, oh, holy crap, that sucks. So I just started laughing. I was like, wow, I didn't actually know who you were till you picked up the phone. And I didn't read that until you answered. And the guy started laughing. He's like, what on earth are you doing? He was like, how does that work? So I sat and told him about the system. And at the end of that conversation, he was like, you know what? My brother-in-law's listing it, but call me back because if I can find a way not to list him, because I don't like him. I'm not going to say the word. He's like, I would hire you. You're great. You're fun. He's like, you've made my morning. So, just make that call, own that mistake and have a laugh. Now, if you're calling with a single dialer because you're nervous, you're going to be more subject to certain times of day. The pickup rate you're going to find, that's the percentage of people that answer the phone when you call, I found is about 12 to 15%. So when you're on a single line dialer, it's crucial that you call at the best times of day to catch people. I found 8:30 to 10 a.m., but I can't do 8:30 very often because I'm not a morning person. So I'm more like a 9 to 10 if I'm doing in the mornings. And my main section is 4:30 to 6:30 in the evenings. I'm more an evening person. You will get more people picking up at those times, more people that can make the decisions. When you're on a triple dialer, because you're dialing 3 people at the same time, you're less subject to those kind of, people not answering their phone because it's dialing 3 people continuously, literally only about 5 seconds between the calls. You're sitting there just for 5 seconds and somebody picks up. It's very, very fast. It's very fast paced. But of course, with that comes, you don't know who's answering the phone. You don't know their property address. You can pick who you're calling. There's systems where you can put in, Coral Gables, this area, but I just do expireds. So I don't know. I do about 10 different areas. There's no way I'm going to know who's answering the phone until they do. So it's very fast paced, and I kind of like that daredevil thing about it, that I'm literally between the screens, because when I'm doing that, I'm less nervous because I'm focused on finding a key sentence from their property description to speak to them. I do the same with for sale by owners. When I'm calling for sale by owners, the moment I see their address pop up, I go to Zillow, I type it in, and I tell them, hey, I saw your property that you have it on Zillow, but your photographs are great, they could be improved. I know your area. Did you write the description? That's a really good description. A lot of people selling on their own don't write a description that detailed, which is true. So you're finding that information quickly when you're doing the triple dialer, but it's not easy. So I would say if you're nervous, start with a single dialer, start calling your sphere of influence. When you get a little bit more comfortable, if you have listings, I would call the area and the properties around your new listings or your just solds. It's like a softer kind of approach because you're offering information for them instantly. People in neighborhoods want to know what the last house sold for. So I would definitely start in that kind of order until you get your confidence up a little bit. But until you find your personality and you kind of find your pace a little bit. So let's see. So random things, I couldn't find my why. Everybody tells you find your why. I just have a why the heck not. I don't have a why. I mean, you all have a why. Money wasn't a big enough why for me, as it turns out, strangely, but money tends to be people's why. Stick it on your vision board, that's your why. Calls are not for everyone. They're really not. Some people prefer mailing, but they're not for anyone usually in the beginning. Don't confuse these. Don't quit easily. Oh, they're not for me. They probably are for you. You're just quitting too easily. Give yourself a good month or two being consistent, and you will be very surprised at how quickly you start to like them, because you're going to start having follow-up calls in about a week. Those follow-up calls are much easier to make than first-time calls. The more calls you make, the longer you do it, the more you're having follow-up calls, the less nervous you become. And follow-up calls are nice. You're calling, you're chatting with them, asking them how they're doing, and you're kind of setting the tone, and you'll know when it's time to ask. And always ask for the appointment. Always say, hey, when can I swing by? When are you free to let me come over? How's that going? If they're doing a renovation, hey, I'd love to swing by and see that and give you tips. I can poll the agents in my company and see which way you should do that, which way buyers prefer. There's little things to do to get that appointment, to get over there. Always take your information about your company, your listing with you, and just go and meet them. Softly does it. But a lot of the people that have hired me from this never actually interviewed other people. They just liked me. They literally, and it's nice. It's a different approach. People are actually pretty nice. I mean, for the most part, not as many people will tell you to F off as you think. They really won't. And if they do, you're only human. There's a mute button there for a reason. Hit that mute button, send them to hell, laugh about it, let them say hello for a while, then come back. And I kind of lost it once on somebody. I'm not going to lie. She was just pure evil. She was horrible. And I said, you know what? I wouldn't want to list your property anyway. I couldn't help myself. She was like, what? She was like, it's a $4 million place. I was like, well, it's actually worth about 3.2, which is why you didn't sell it, but I wouldn't want to list it anyway. I couldn't help it. Like, you're going to have those days where you snap back. It's okay. Hang up on them, wish them a good day and say goodbye. And don't be harsh on yourself. Loosen up, enjoy the calls, and then just get on with it. So I hope that was helpful. Let's go over the scripts. I mean, the things that I like to read. Definitely Realbird. Realbird is a fantastic, if you're not a member already, I highly recommend you logging in, because they basically will put your listing everywhere. They have smartphone technology. You can text a number and all the listing details pop up. It's very impressive to sellers when you show them these kind of little things that they're not doing themselves. So definitely get that. Join different Facebook groups. I would say the lead gen is a really good one. Lead gen scripts and objections. People will often write, hey, I called a person, they said this, how do you respond? Read the comments. Some of them are horrible. Some of the advice you're going to see is bad. Cherry pick, but I got obsessed with it, and it was helpful. Definitely join that one. Fearless Agent is another good one that you'll get some useful tips from, and watch people make their calls just to watch them get beat up, because see how they respond to it. Aaron Widenstein is one of my favorites, Greg McDaniel. They get beat up sometimes, but they move on. They hang up the phone and they're recording live, and they're like, well, great. Well, wouldn't want to work with that one anyway. We're human. Watch people make their calls. Definitely see how they handle people. See how they get the appointment. Definitely do that. And then just make sure that whoever you call is aligned with your style. That's one of my biggest tips for you. If somebody is very much into scripts and very strict with that and a very fast mover, maybe don't call them, because I made that mistake of comparing and calling people with opposite styles to me. And then I switched my style to be more like them. And I wasted time doing it, and I hated the calls. I can't enjoy making the calls if I'm not myself, and you won't. So stick to something that's true to you and kind of make it fun and have fun with people and get them to warm to you. But when they pick up the phone, quickly compliment, quickly sympathize, give them a reason to not have that ego. Make it okay that they're placed in sell. Make it okay that they're selling on their own. people will warm to you if you let them. So I hope you're all awake. I know that was pretty long. I haven't really done this before, so if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer you with anything like that. But Janie, does anybody have any questions? I think Janie is asleep.
No, I'm here.
Hi. Anything you think I should talk about?
No, I think it was great. One person did want to know if you'd be willing to do a quick role play on this call.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, so I will be the for sale by owner.
Okay.
And I'll be a little tough on you.
Of course you will. It's what best friends are for. Let's go for it. Okay. So I'm going to pretend as if you pick up the phone. So a big thing with me is to sound instantly cheery. So this is how I'll normally do it. Hello, hello, hi, hi. Do you have, I could have the wrong number, but do you have a really pretty house for sale on 97th Court?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Well, first off, great news. I found you. I mean, I'm sure you're getting bombarded by realtors. Is that the case? Do you have a lot of people calling you?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, well, that means that's good because a lot of the sell by owners are actually invisible. So the fact that realtors are finding you actually also means buyers are finding you. And I noticed, I'm pulling you up now. It looks like that you are on, you're on Zillow, but I can't really see any photographs. Did you add any photographs to your listing? Because your description, it sounds really pretty, but I don't see any photographs.
No, I definitely did.
Oh, well, did you take any? Do you have any? Did you do any? It sounds like you renovated your kitchen and it sounds really like you did a great job and it was recent. Do you have any photographs of that? Because definitely you want to showcase that.
I did. I thought I had uploaded them.
It's pretty tricky. It's even tricky for realtors sometimes. They changed a lot of these systems. It's hard to get. I spoke to somebody literally like half an hour before you, and her first photograph was a toilet. At least you didn't do that. So, there are ways to fix that. But did you have phone calls from buyers? Have you done any open houses?
So I'm sorry, I'm kind of busy right now. Do you have a buyer?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm not that selfish when it comes to buyers. I can find you a buyer, but my goal with anybody who's selling, whether you're trying to sell on your own, which is great, or whether you're, using a realtor, is to find you all of the buyers. So I'd love to come over and see your property because, I want to make sure that it will work for buyers. And without photographs, it's hard for me to help you find somebody who would be interested in your house because people are really, really visual. And I would say about 90% will go from the photographs. So could I swing by and maybe take some photographs?
Well, I want to call Zillow and find out why my photos aren't showing because I did upload them.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Oh, you did upload them?
I did.
Well, are you having an open house this weekend?
No, I'm not.
Oh, would you mind? I can swing by and teach you, let you borrow some open house signs. Your cross section is actually a really busy street. So you're lucky in that you would benefit from an open house because you're going to get traffic. And if your goal is to sell on your own, you definitely want to be having an open house. Is it something that you've thought about?
Sure, why don't you come over and bring them?
Okay, great. What time works best for you? And don't worry, I'm not going to take up much of your time. I know it's a Sunday and everybody's busy, but it definitely doesn't hurt to meet and while I'm there, I can give you a hand to upload those photographs. And I have done that, guys, by the way.
Okay, how about 1 o'clock?
Okay, great. I'll see you then. Thank you so much.
Okay, so good job. I'm gonna mute myself because I'm sure Eric has some questions for you as well.
Go for it. Eric, hi.
Hello, Shelly.
Hi.
So one of the questions I might have is, do you make this part of your day? How do you fit in the cold calling? Is there a specific time that you obviously mentioned when you're at your best to be able to engage with people? I know that having done this type of calling before, sometimes even Saturday mornings before people get their day going can be the best time. But,
Yeah, true.
Is that true?
Yeah, Saturdays are actually a good. I've called, my time for calling Saturday tends to be, I like to do 11 till about 1. I feel like people who work in the week, it's their one day to kind of, have a lazy morning. I don't ever want to bother people too early. So I
Okay.
would start at 11. I have done as late as 2 to 4 on a Saturday. And, I find anything after 4 p.m., I found people are kind of antsy, they're getting ready for dinner,
Hmm.
it's a Saturday. I found that less successful. I've called on a Sunday maybe once. It's a psychological thing with me that I can't do it. I'm English. We take weekends off. It never worked for me because of my own roadblock in my head. But I have heard other agents say Sundays are very good times to call. So, and during the week, Eric, can get a bit tough. I just had to, if Christian's there, thank you, Christian, for now starting to help save my life with helping me with my business. But I found it hard to stick to a rigid schedule with calls. So, but I did find the evenings were better for me. But if I knew I had appointments that evening, I would try and make a point to at least get on the phone for an hour. At any point during the day, I have a triple dialer. I'm at the point now where I don't make excuses. I would make excuses. Well, if I can't do it at 4 to 6, I can't do it at all. Do not do that. Just get on the phone whenever you can. If you can't do it at the ideal time, just do it at a different time. Just do it, basically, would be my tip for you.
Yeah, and I can think some people you're more of a free spirit where you like to be flexible and fluid, and so the rigid doesn't work for you. But for some people, like you said, mentioned with the scripts, the rigid will work better. It's
Definitely, yeah.
what
I
you,
wish
it's
I
what
could
you're.
be. I
It's
wish
what
I
you.
could be
Go ahead.
rigid.
What's that?
I wish I could be rigid. I hate you guys. I'm so jealous. If you can be rigid and stick to it, you're going to have great results for sure. Because if you can section off a part of your day, whether it be the morning, and those are the times that statistically, when I did a lot of analysis, were the times for the higher pickup rate. For me, like I said, triple dialer doesn't matter, but for the higher pickup rate, that 8:30, some people call as early as 7:30. I find that rude, but the 8:30 to 10, the 4 to 6:30 were the windows. Some people call as late as 8 p.m. Those 2 blocks were the windows that were getting the higher pickup rate for sure.
And but I mean, you'd say, hey, you don't like to be as flexible and fluid, but I also think that that your part of your style is why you're really good and dynamic with people when engaging with them. So everybody has their own style, but it still fits into engaging with people, picking up the phone when they don't expect it.
Yeah, exactly. It's never easier for a particular time of day, I don't think, because it all depends on the individual person that you're calling. So don't do what I did and find so many. I have every excuse under the book for not calling. Jeff from Compass knows that. He's always like, he beats me up when I don't make calls. Have somebody who you kind of have to check in with, who will hold you to making your calls. Like, have somebody who will text you at a certain time every day and be like, how did your calls go? Because
Yeah,
for me,
that's great.
it's great. For me, sometimes it's harder for me to think about telling Jeff, think of an excuse as to why I didn't make them to Jeff, than it is for me to pick up the phone. And Jeff knows this. Many times I picked up the phone and called because I just didn't have the energy to find a good reason to kind of lie to him and be like, oh, I can do it today. No, I'm just going to pick up the phone. Forget it.
Well, and coaching real stages for almost over 20 years actually, and I realized that sometimes it helps to have a little text in front of you that says something like, "Who am I helping today? Who needs my help?" And this kind of engages your helper servant style of
Make
personality.
it about them. Exactly. It's part of making it about them. So Glenn asked, do I leave a voicemail if they don't answer? Glenn, I never did, because I was always with Mojo, you can schedule it to call back the people that don't answer. So I always found it ideal for me to actually be able to try and get them on the phone. But I've started calling kind of sections that I don't think I'll call again. Maybe I'll just call this area once. Then I do leave a voicemail. And when I leave a voicemail for sale by owners, I'll say, hey, I saw that your house is for sale. Give me a call. That's simple. So then a lot of them
Engage
do
them.
actually call back. Yeah. And then for expires, hey, I noticed you have a property for sale, just give me a call. A lot of them will call you back. So, and then you get to chat to them again. So I've started actually doing that. Most people that call don't leave voicemails, I found.
Got it.
Yeah, so most actually don't, because the goal is you always want to get them on the phone. You always want to get that live person. I would say it depends as well on the different areas are going to have different amounts of people and different numbers to call. Like if you have if you're doing calls and you see that you have 1,000 numbers to get through, then okay, you can leave a voicemail. But if you don't have that many, you want to actually have the ability to keep calling them. So maybe don't do that. Depends on the numbers you have, how many you have.
Got it. Did Marie have a question? I think Marie's one of our attendees here, and I think Marie, I've unmuted you. I don't know if your microphone's live, or you can text your question as well. I think I have you unmuted. Marie might be having some issues on connecting. Are there any other questions, Gabe or Janie, that you see that didn't get answered? Because, by the way, let me just make a comment, Shelly. This is awesome what you were showing. The value. I mean, we could have charged $250 to show up to this. 60 minutes of brilliance. Because
thanks. So now that I didn't get paid, should I be asking? I'm like, so are you going to pay me now, Eric?
Okay. Hey, I'm putting some value to it because having been in real estate, marketing for so long and working with so many people, these are the very things you've been very honest about what works, what didn't work, what you tried, and you're willing to learn from those mistakes that you made to become better and become very good, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you find it easy to talk to people, then people are generally pretty nice. Like, you'll get your confidence when you learn objections to common questions. I have a friend in the business, like, do you have a buyer for me? Like Janie asked, these are very common questions. What happened? What will you do differently to my last realtor? You can find, there are a lot of responses that if you know them and you're comfortable with them, it helps your confidence. It makes everything a bit less scary. I just like to kind of throw things out there during the conversation. But, like Tom Ferry, he just asks a list of questions, which is, pick a few of those questions and throw them in during a conversation. Like, hey, what do you think the last agent did that could have been done better? Or how did you choose your last realtor? When you ask someone how they chose their last realtor, it gives you a bit of insight as to, will they work for me as a client? Can I fit why they chose that person? Can I do that too? Just throw in those little kind of questions while you're having a normal day-to-day conversation about their life. If they're having a bad day, they want to tell you about it. Trust me, I've had people, I don't even want to tell you, one was telling me about her upset stomach for like 10 minutes. It was kind of nasty, but hey, you know what? They want to bitch to you. Like, they'll be happy to let you listen.
Well, and I think that you have a great balance, Shelly, in that you're asking questions but allowing people to answer and to speak themselves out, and being careful not to step over them. Be aware, all you're doing is trying to find out how you can help them. That's really what you're doing. Is this a person? Is this a person I'm going to engage with them? Is this a person I can help? Am I the person that can help them? You answering those questions in your mind as you talk to them, and also that I think that you're open to it, that you're going to step into this calling knowing that people really aren't jerks. Because I've seen real estate agents try to interact with, and they have a premise that, oh my gosh, this is going to be tough, this is going to be difficult, and probably people are going to be rude, and you can't have that attitude. You have to go into there with a kind of like a servant style. How can I help this person?
Exactly. And you know what? When they get mean, just mute them and have some fun with them. I really have. There was one guy, and he was a kind of a dick, and he was like, "Look, I've done this. I've been selling my own property for 10 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't need you. I will never need you." And I couldn't help it. I said, well, judging by the photographs that you have online, I definitely think maybe you don't need me, but for sure you need a professional photographer. And he was like, what? I was like, hey, good luck. You could have net more, but you can't help it. Sometimes you want to be a kind of mean back to them. And that's okay, whatever. Be mean to them and then say, but anyway, good luck. But when you're talking to them, just, and I still got that dig in, well, you need a professional photographer. Like, with the for sale by owners, I'll tell them, look, I'm crap at taking photos too. That's why I hire a professional photographer. So I'm telling them what I do in my business, but I'm making it in a less salesy kind of way. Like I twist everything to kind of, make it a little softer on them. that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not selling to
But
them.
you're
People
still,
don't want to admit defeat.
even them being rude with you, you're still showing them your predominance and your professionalism. Hey, I'm
Well,
here to help. You need that help?
yeah,
It's here.
one of the
Have me a
rudest
little.
guys to me is now my buyer. I mean, he was pretty rude to me, and and in the end, I said to him, "Wow, I can't believe I ruined your day. Like this sucks. I never want to be the reason someone has a horrible day." And then he felt kind of bad because think of yourself. If somebody calls you when you're busy, you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
snap at them. But if you're actually a nice person, when they apologize,
Mm-hmm.
you feel bad. So it's a good test because they will snap at you, they will be busy, but apologize and make a bit of a joke. And if they say, "Oh, it's okay," okay, keep them talking, then go in for it. And then they feel so bad, they're probably going to listen to you. And they normally do with me. But if they continue to be mean, just cut them off. Cut them off. You don't need them. They're going to
Yeah,
be a
no,
pain
yeah.
to.
That you found out that they're not a person that you can help. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. But don't cut them off too quick. Like always apologize and see how they respond to an apology and a bit of humor. And if it's quite a good response, they're just like us. They're busy. We're all too busy to talk to a stranger. We all get that. We all get annoyed with it.
Mm-hmm. Janie or Gabe, were there some other questions? I think Marie had a question or a comment.
She had a comment. She put it in the chat section. She was having a hard time with her thing. She said, before doing your calls, you must first make yourself searchable in the internet. Otherwise, using useless calling them, they will Google you, and you'll be nowhere to be found online.
You know what? I meant to mention that to you guys. What's good? What I do, and I've never actually had that happen, that they're worried about that, because when I have a good conversation with somebody, a lot of the time, if I think they're pretty serious, I'll text them a link to my bio and say, "Hey, it was great chatting to you. Here, just so you can put a face to the crazy English voice, or here, just so you can put a face to me." It's another way to kind of cement yourself in their memory. But yeah, that's good. And make sure that you have some listings handy to text to them too, as an example. But yeah, the more visible, the better. I agree. Like, for sure. You want them to know that you are legit.
Okay.
And Eric, I was just going to share one thing real fast. The way I've used Realbird with for sale by owners is like Shelly was saying, she comes from a place of service, offering open house signs, offering to give staging advice. I have offered and done, made the Realbird single listing websites for sale by owners and shared.
While you're there, right? Have you done it while you're there? They love that.
Well, I've taken the pictures and then went home and made it and then shared it with them, the non-branded one. And I've just found when you do some things that don't take you very much time and don't cost you money, but are helping them, most for sale by owners end up eventually listing with an agent anyway. And the person that they're going to list with is the one who's been helping them along the way.
Yeah, so, sorry, I should have touched on that. Janie, that's great, because I send them open house sign-in sheets, actually. And when you offer to do that, guys, that's the way for you to get their email address. So say, "Hey, I have an open house sign-in sheet." You want that sign-in sheet because you need people to sign in, because if you drop the price, you need a way to get in touch with them. You need a feedback form that they can fill in and you can read later. Just tell them that's anonymous, but you want their feedback, and that you want to see why they're not buying your house. Just send them something of value. It gets their email, it gets them knowing of you, they're appreciative. And that's a great way, especially with a for sale by owner, because all of them do agree to that. Like, a lot of them will be like, "Okay, yeah, great, thank you." Who's not going to agree to that? It's a great way to get more information from them, their email address.
Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of great. This has been a lot of great information. Are there any other folks that had some questions or comments?
Nope. Well, just don't quit with for sale by owners. They take forever. That's my word of advice with those. They take a while to convert. So just remember that, don't quit. Keep the follow up. Check to make sure it's not listed. Call them every week or so and ask them how it's going. Call them after their open house, ask them know how it went. They're the longest ones to convert, and you have a twofold conversion. You've got to get them to agree to commission and list with you. So they're a little trickier, but if you offer service, they're the ones that appreciate that the most, because they're out there on their own and they don't know what they're getting into. drop into every conversation little things like, well, you know, a lot of people list with an agent because they get a ton of calls, they don't know how to qualify someone, they're worried about legal issues with the contract. Throw in all the things they don't know are going to happen in a non-kind of salesy way.
It's enough to scare them to come to you.
That's the plan. Scare them nicely. Scare them nicely and scare them like all the time and email them. Well, you know, don't forget to ask for people's IDs when you're doing these. I never do an open house on my own. Don't be alone on your open house. Just little things to get them to think.
I'm just looking out for you.
Yeah, I'm looking out for you. I'm here for you. Here for you. You need me.
That's awesome.
Hey, Eric, put up your contact information as well, so that if somebody has some technical questions or something, or they need help, they know who to call.
Okay, I can't share it because I'm not on Shelly's. Oh, to share my screen, I got it. Okay, I got it.
Oh, and I also have contact information for call. They're gonna usually it's $1,400 for a year. Through my link, I'll give it to you guys for $1,000, so $400 off for the year. That's for the circle calling and the neighborhood. And then Vulcan 7, let me know if you're interested in that for your expired and your for sale by owner. I'll send you a link to that. Those two things are crucial. Mojo, those three things are the ones that I would definitely recommend you all get. You don't have that much time to waste sitting for the phone to keep ringing.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. Well, thanks everybody for sharing. This has been really helpful. I hope people see the value in what you're sharing with them today. Shelly, this is, you can tell this is advice gained by real experience, so that you're really doing it and obviously successful with it.
Yeah, I got beat up a lot, so.
But you overcome the bumps and bruises, yeah. And take the phone back up to continue to find those people that are right for you to help.
Yeah, but when they call and they're like, hey, remember me, we're ready to list, and they list at the price you tell them, and then you sell it a week later, hey, it's worthwhile, guys, so don't quit. Get beat up and get some good results getting beat up.
Yeah, and I think the beat up a lot of times happens is the agent will beat up themselves.
Yeah.
Am I intruding on them? Am I interrupting them? Am I being rude to them? They don't. But you got to understand, there are people out there that need your help, and you got to turn that help servant on.
That was my biggest issue, because I didn't believe that for a while. Exactly that. You feel like you're intruding, but they're literally losing thousands of dollars with a crappy agent or trying to sell on their own. To sell by owners will sell for 6% average less than a regular sale with a realtor, and then we don't even know if they're paying a buyer's agent. So just remember, you are bringing a service. You're a great realtor. They need you. You just got to get them over that hump of their arrogance and their ego to a normal conversation, and then you're golden. You're good.
This was awesome. Shelly, thank you very much for sharing this insight. This was really, really good. Thanks, everybody, for coming to our training today. We're going to be... Thanks, everybody. We're going to be back together on our next webinar. We have much more to bring to you and share with you. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. Everybody should receive recording. Thank you, Janie.
I think she's gone.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I was just being just here to help Shelly out.
Thanks, Janie, for your help.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.